and at the end this strange enclosure of standing stones, half submerged amongst the farm buildings, is now surveyed.
Deep beneath the ocean's surface, where light fades into darkness, a team of marine experts has uncovered something that defies logic. Massive stone formations stretching for miles across the seabed. These aren't natural ridges or coral mounds. Their symmetry, scale, and precision suggest deliberate construction by an unknown hand, long before recorded history. Could this be evidence of a lost civilization swallowed by the sea? Scientists are stunned, governments are silent, and the truth may rewrite human history, because what lies beneath the waves changes everything. The blueprint of the ancients. Long before pyramids pierced the Egyptian sky or temples rose in Greece, vast circles of stone and earth began to appear across the prehistoric landscapes of Europe. These were not random piles of rock or crude ritual spaces. They were precisely measured blueprints, laid out with an accuracy that baffled generations of archaeologists. What if, long before written history, humanity had already discovered a universal language?
Archaeologists translated 4,000-year-old texts.
One written not in words, but in geometry. In the windswept fields of Britain and Brittany, hundreds of ancient monuments share uncanny mathematical precision. Circles of granite and limestone, from Avebury and Callanish to Karnak's endless alignments, follow angles, ratios, and alignments so exact that even modern engineers admit they're difficult to replicate with primitive tools. When researchers began mapping these structures, they noticed something extraordinary. Distances and diameters often shared the same proportional relationships. It was as if the builders, scattered across thousands of miles, had followed the same architectural template. Who were they? And how could such consistency exist without writing, rulers, or global contact? In the 20th century, aerial photography and early surveying revealed a deeper truth. These monuments weren't just arranged at random, they were astronomically tuned. Many aligned perfectly with solar and lunar cycles, marking solstices, equinoxes, and lunar standstills with remarkable precision. The accuracy suggested sustained observation over generations, requiring both advanced mathematics and an understanding of celestial mechanics. Whoever built them wasn't guessing. They were measuring time itself. At sites like Stonehenge, the geometry goes far beyond simple alignment. The monument encodes multiple astronomical cycles, from the 18.6-year lunar nodal period to solar risings and settings that define the agricultural year. Nearby at Newgrange in Ireland, a single shaft of light illuminates the tomb's inner chamber only during the winter solstice, a feat of alignment so exact that even modern reconstruction has struggled to match it. Across the channel in Karnak, rows of stones stretch for kilometers in near-perfect linear precision, as though charting an invisible path across the land. Recent digital analyses have revealed yet another layer of complexity. When plotted on a map, the placement of Europe's major megalithic sites appears to follow a subtle geometric pattern, one that echoes Earth's curvature and magnetic orientation. Ancient builders seem to understand not only the sky, but also the energetic structure of the ground beneath them. To the untrained eye, these were simple circles. To those who built them, they may have been instruments, part calendar, part compass, part resonant machine. Such precision doesn't fit the standard timeline of human progress. Conventional archaeology tells us that these monuments were raised by scattered farming communities armed with stone tools and primitive knowledge. Yet the evidence suggests a shared system of measurement, a kind of prehistoric geometry of the Earth that appears centuries before the advent of formal mathematics. Were these communities independently brilliant, or were they inheriting something from an earlier source? This question haunts modern researchers. As more data emerges, the idea of a lost global culture once dismissed as pseudoscience has begun to seem less implausible. The same mathematical ratios appear not only in European stone circles, but also in ancient structures across the Mediterranean, South America, and Asia. How could such knowledge arise spontaneously across isolated populations separated by oceans and millennia. The builders left no texts, no records, and yet their stones speak with the authority of science. They suggest continuity, an ancient system of measurement, architecture, and astronomy so advanced that it forces us to rethink what primitive truly means. The monuments may not mark the dawn of civilization, but its echo, the surviving signature of something far older, a forgotten blueprint etched in earth and stone. The precision was undeniable, but soon, one man's measurements would reveal just how impossibly advanced these ancient engineers really were. The engineer who measured the impossible. After World War II, a Scottish engineer named Alexander Thom began a project that would quietly upend everything historians thought they knew about the Stone Age. Trained in precision engineering and mathematics, Thom wasn't an archaeologist by trade, but what he discovered among the standing stones of Britain and France would shake the foundations of archaeology itself. Thom had been fascinated by the ancient stone circles dotting the countryside, places like Callanish in Scotland and Carnac in France. Vast alignments of granite and sandstone placed with puzzling accuracy by Neolithic builders thousands of years ago. To most researchers of the early 20th century, these sites were the chaotic products of primitive ritual or sun worship. But Thom saw something else: precision, geometry, purpose. Armed with theodolites, measuring tapes, and the same meticulous methodology he once used for aircraft design, Thom spent over 3 decades surveying nearly 600 megalithic sites across the British Isles and continental Europe. What he found was beyond coincidence. The distances between stones, the arcs they formed, even their orientation to the horizon, all conformed to a common mathematical pattern. When he averaged his data, a single repeating unit kept appearing, a measure of exactly 2.72 feet. He called it the megalithic yard. The revelation was astonishing. Across vast distances and cultures, Stone Age builders, living over 5,000 years ago, long before writing or metal tools, appeared to have used the same standard of measurement. The implication was that they shared a system of knowledge, possibly even a mathematical or astronomical understanding lost to time. Thom's calculations showed that these circles and rows were not random, but astronomically aligned.
The sites were used for astronomical observation,
Marking solstices, lunar standstills, and even the 18.6-year lunar cycle. At Stonehenge, the sun rose precisely along a line that matched the monument's outer ring. At Karnak, rows of stones stretched toward the midsummer sunrise. These alignments required not only deep astronomical awareness, but also instruments capable of measuring angles with stunning accuracy. It was a level of sophistication that, until Thom's work, no one believed Neolithic people possessed. Thom's findings were met with fierce skepticism. Critics accused him of overinterpreting coincidences, of forcing data to fit a theory. Archaeologists of the time could not accept that societies predating the pyramids had developed a standardized system of measurement, a Stone Age metrology. Yet, as years passed and more evidence emerged, Thom's work began to look less like fantasy and more like rediscovered fact. Later studies using modern GPS technology confirmed his precision. Even when remeasured with 21st century equipment, the dimensions of these ancient circles continued to match Thom's proposed unit with remarkable consistency. Across hundreds of sites, from Brittany to Orkney, the same proportions repeated like a forgotten signature of prehistoric engineering. But perhaps the most haunting implication lay not in the stones themselves, but in what they represented: communication. If these scattered cultures shared a single unit of measure, then some form of exchange must have existed across vast distances. Ideas, not just tools, were traveling. Could it be that these builders inherited their knowledge from an even older source, a civilization whose memory survives only in the geometry of their monuments? To Thom, the megalithic yard was not just a measurement, it was a language, one that linked earth and sky, structure and star, human intention and cosmic rhythm. Each stone circle, he argued, was a kind of observatory, a way to read time through the heavens. The people who built them were not primitives fumbling in the dark. They were scientists, ancient engineers who measured the impossible with nothing but intuition, observation, and an inherited wisdom we barely comprehend. Modern researchers are still debating Tom's conclusions, but even his critics admit one thing: the uniformity of prehistoric monuments across Europe is undeniable. Their builders were working from a shared template, and the knowledge behind it may stretch far beyond what archaeology can currently explain. But if Stone Age societies across thousands of miles shared the same precise unit of measurement, who first taught them how? The language of stone and stars. When Alexander Thom first revealed the existence of the megalithic yard, many dismissed it as a curious quirk of prehistoric Europe. But as scholars, mathematicians, and alternative researchers dug deeper, an unsettling realization began to take shape. The same mathematical fingerprints were appearing far beyond the misty isles of Britain and France. From the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Central America, ancient builders seemed to speak a common architectural language, one written not in words but in geometry, proportion, and alignment with the stars. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza stands as one of history's most enduring enigmas.
The Pyramids of Egypt. Across the last 300 years,
Its base, proportions, and celestial alignment reveal a mastery of mathematics and astronomy that remains difficult to explain. The Remen, Egypt's fundamental unit of measurement, when converted into modern units, is strikingly close to the megalithic yard in proportional ratios. Both appear to derive from Earth's geometry, divisions based on the planet's circumference and solar cycles. Such precision implies not mere coincidence, but an inherited understanding of universal constants. Across the ancient world, the story repeats. In Mesopotamia, the cradle of Sumerian civilization, clay tablets depict triangles and ratios that mirror those found in European stone circles. These weren't just early math exercises, they were blueprints for temples, ziggurats, and city plans constructed with geometric precision. The famous Sumerian triangle, whose proportions mirror the Pythagorean theorem long before Pythagoras was born, seems to echo the same sacred geometry that guided Thom's megalithic builders. Travel halfway across the world to Central America, and the mystery deepens. The Mayans, masters of astronomy and timekeeping, built cities like Chichen Itza and Tikal with alignments that mark equinoxes and solstices to the day. Their pyramids were not just tombs, they were instruments of time, calibrated to the movement of the sun and planets. Some researchers have noted proportional relationships between Mayan Hunab units and the megalithic yard, suggesting that ancient cultures separated by oceans may have shared a common system of measure rooted in cosmic observation. If these patterns were limited to architecture, one might dismiss them as chance, but they extend into sound, vibration, and energy. Many megalithic sites, from Stonehenge to the Egyptian temples, exhibit acoustic properties that amplify certain frequencies. These weren't mistakes of design, they were intentional. When ancient chants or drumming resonated within these stone enclosures, they created standing waves, harmonics that interacted with the body and brain. The ancients may have viewed these spaces not only as temples or observatories, but as living instruments, tuned to the rhythms of earth and sky. Even more intriguing, several megalithic sites are positioned along geomagnetic lines, subtle flows of Earth's natural energy field. Ancient builders seem to understand how to place their monuments where cosmic and terrestrial forces met, creating what modern researchers call energy nodes. These alignments could have had spiritual or even practical purposes, amplifying sound, light, or atmospheric effects. As patterns multiplied across continents, researchers faced a haunting possibility. How could civilizations separated by vast oceans, living thousands of years apart, share such an advanced understanding of geometry, astronomy, and energy? Was it independent discovery, or inheritance. Some suggest that the world's first engineers didn't originate in any one region, but were remnants of a far older civilization that predated recorded history, a global culture whose knowledge survived through oral tradition, myth, and stone. Perhaps the builders of Stonehenge, the architects of Giza, and the astronomer priests of Mesoamerica all drew from the same lost source, one that encoded its wisdom in stone and stars. In every alignment, every ratio, every perfectly carved block of limestone and granite, a message seems to whisper through time that long before recorded civilization, humanity once measured the heavens with a precision we are only beginning to rediscover. As researchers compared these patterns, one question grew impossible to ignore. Was all this knowledge inherited from an even older civilization? The architects of lost geometry. Long before the first written word or wheel, people were shaping stone with an accuracy that shouldn't have been possible. Across the windswept plains of Scotland, the ridges of Brittany, and the valleys of Ireland, vast stone monuments stand aligned not just to the stars, but to a mathematical order buried deep within their design. When Alexander Thom began meticulously surveying these ancient sites, his goal was simple: to prove that prehistoric builders were more sophisticated than anyone imagined. What he discovered instead was a language of geometry and precision that rivaled anything produced until the Renaissance. Everywhere Thom measured, from the Callanish stones of the Outer Hebrides to the sprawling alignments of Carnac in France, he found the same recurring ratios. This revelation alone was astonishing, but it was the patterns behind the stones that made historians uneasy. The layouts obeyed principles of Pythagorean geometry, a system supposedly unknown for another 2,000 years. Triangles with exact 3:4:5 ratios, perfect ellipses, and tangent arcs appeared in places built centuries before Greece existed. Either Pythagoras rediscovered something ancient, or the world's earliest builders already possessed the knowledge of his theorems. How could people without written mathematics achieve such perfection? The answer may lie in their tools. In 2018, archaeologists excavating near the Ness of Brodgar in Orkney uncovered stone slabs etched with crisscrossing grids and intersecting circles. These weren't decorative, they were templates. Experimental archaeologists recreated them and found they could generate flawless geometric patterns by hand, using only string, wooden pegs, and sight lines. With these instruments, a Neolithic surveyor could lay out a perfect circle over hundreds of feet of open terrain. No ruler, no compass, no writing. Yet, the deeper the investigation went, the stranger it became. Many megalithic sites incorporated geodetic alignment, where circles were positioned to mark latitude shifts, solar arcs, and lunar standstills. When charted on a map, these alignments formed a vast geometric network stretching across Western Europe. It was as though the ancient builders were not just architects, but earth measurers, mapping the world with stone markers that encoded planetary geometry. Many circles, such as Stennis and Avebury, were positioned using angular measurements corresponding to the Earth's 366-degree megalithic calendar, a solar system derived from the rotation of the planet itself. This isn't superstition or myth, it's mathematics. Even the spacing between stones reflects harmonic intervals, suggesting the builders understood frequency relationships that modern physics would later rediscover. Every site, from the smallest stone row to the grandest henge, followed a pattern, ratios embedded in the very shape of nature, as if the builders were harmonizing with the planet's geometry. In the megalithic world, 366 was not just a number, it was the mathematical fingerprint of the planet. The Earth turns 366 times each year in relation to the stars, what modern science calls sidereal days. The 366-degree system proposed by Alexander Thom is one of the most fascinating and controversial ideas in archaeoastronomy.
The preliminary results more than lived up to everything he'd hoped to find.
Unlike our modern 360-degree circle, this system divides the Earth into 366 degrees, each containing 60 arc minutes, each arc minute holding 6 arc seconds, and each arc second equaling 366 megalithic yards. When multiplied together, these numbers produce the exact circumference of the Earth, an astonishing level of precision for prehistoric builders who supposedly lacked writing, metal tools, advanced mathematics. Tom's findings suggested that ancient engineers didn't just measure land, they measured the planet itself. The 60-60-60 pattern mirrors ancient Mesopotamian sexagesimal mathematics, the same base 60 system that gave us 60 seconds in a minute and 360 degrees in a circle. If correct, this older 366-degree framework implies that early civilizations possessed an awareness of the Earth's curvature, its rotational geometry, and possibly its relation to celestial cycles. More than just a numerical curiosity, the system hinted at a cosmic synchronization, a way of mapping space and time using harmonic proportions. It linked geometry, astronomy, and natural resonance into a unified worldview, one that may have been inherited from an even earlier global culture whose understanding of mathematics rivaled our own. But these curious occurrences don't just end there. These Stone Age people weren't just masters in understanding the measurements of our planet, but also the energies that lie within. The energy grid of the Earth. Across continents and oceans, from the stone circles of Britain to the pyramids of Egypt and the temples of South America, a mysterious pattern begins to emerge, one that suggests humanity's ancient builders may have been mapping something far greater than their surroundings. According to a growing body of research, these monuments were not placed at random. They align along invisible threads of power known as ley lines, natural electromagnetic pathways said to weave through the Earth like veins of energy beneath the planet's surface. At first, the idea of a global energy grid sounded like myth, more mysticism than science. But modern instruments are changing that perception. Magnetometers, seismic sensors, and resonance detectors have recorded unusual anomalies near major megalithic sites, fluctuations in magnetic fields, shifts in background radiation, and low-frequency vibrations that seem to hum in rhythmic harmony. Places like Stonehenge, the Great Pyramid of Giza, and Machu Picchu all sit on these intersecting lines of geomagnetic intensity, hinting that ancient builders may have understood and even harnessed the planet's natural forces. Some researchers believe these structures acted as amplifiers or conductors, designed to tune into the Earth's Schumann resonance, a global electromagnetic frequency that vibrates around 7.83 Hz. This resonance is produced by lightning strikes and atmospheric activity circling the globe, creating a planetary heartbeat. The uncanny precision with which ancient monuments were built, aligned to cardinal points, celestial events, and magnetic north, suggests a deliberate attempt to synchronize with these frequencies. At the Giza Plateau, for instance, modern readings show distinct electromagnetic anomalies within the Great Pyramid. The King's Chamber resonates at a frequency close to the Earth's own, a natural amplifier of sound and energy. In Newgrange, Ireland, acoustic testing inside the burial chamber revealed that low-frequency chants or drums could cause the stone walls to vibrate sympathetically, producing a standing wave that magnifies sound tenfold. These were not merely tombs or temples, they were instruments, tuned to the harmonics of the planet itself. Across the Atlantic, the Incan citadel of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, with its interlocking stones cut to micron precision, shows similar acoustic and magnetic signatures. When the wind moves through the narrow corridors, the air resonates like an organ. At certain times of year, solar radiation spikes in these regions coincide with heightened electromagnetic activity measured on the ground. Could it be that these builders were capturing and manipulating energy, solar, telluric, or even seismic, to power rituals, technologies, or communication networks we no longer understand? Even NASA's geomagnetic surveys have shown that the Earth's magnetic field,
protecting us from the fury of the sun, is a giant bubble of magnetism called the magnetosphere.
fluctuates along predictable paths, many coinciding eerily with ancient megalithic alignments. Energy vortices like those in Sedona, Arizona, and the Nazca Plateau exhibit measurable electromagnetic differences compared to surrounding terrain. While mainstream science attributes these to geology, proponents of the energy grid theory argue that ancient architects could detect and utilize these hotspots thousands of years before modern instruments could even measure them. If true, this would mean our ancestors weren't primitive builders stacking stones at random. They were engineers of the Earth itself. Their temples, pyramids, and stone circles may have functioned as vast instruments of energy balancing, maintaining equilibrium between the land, sky, and human consciousness. Whether spiritual or scientific in purpose, the result was the same: a global network of megaliths, all vibrating to the same hidden rhythm. If the megalithic builders harnessed the planet's natural forces, what could they have been trying to power? The sound of the stones. For centuries, archaeologists viewed the monument as a primitive calendar or ritual site, but new acoustic research has begun to reveal a more extraordinary story. These stones sing. In 2020, a team of sound engineers and archaeologists recreated a full 3D acoustic model of Stonehenge using laser scans and digital mapping. When they simulated chants and drumming within the circle, the results were startling. The arrangement of the stones created powerful standing waves, low, pulsing tones that reverberated around the interior, amplifying sound up to 4 times louder than outside. The frequency peaks matched harmonic intervals known to calm the human nervous system and synchronize brainwave activity. It wasn't just a place of ceremony. It was an instrument designed to transform those who entered it. At Newgrange in Ireland, an even older monument, built over 5,000 years ago, displayed similar properties. When sound was generated inside its central chamber, particularly deep rhythmic tones around 110 Hz, the space resonated with astonishing precision. Researchers found that this frequency directly affects the human brain's alpha wave state linked to meditation, intuition, and trance. What's more, carvings on the stone walls depict spirals and wave patterns, possibly visual representations of vibration itself. These builders weren't guessing. They understood sound as a tool to shape reality. Across continents, the same pattern emerges. The hypogeum of Hal Saflieni in Malta, a vast underground temple carved into limestone,
You walk around 2 stones, one that is vertical and one that is horizontal.
resonates at precisely 110 Hz, amplifying male voices and causing physical vibrations in the chest and skull. Visitors describe altered states of perception, as if the stones themselves hum with intention. In the Great Pyramid of Giza, acousticians discovered that the king's chamber resonates perfectly with frequencies of the Earth's own Schumann resonance, suggesting a design built not only for the dead, but for communion with the planet's electromagnetic pulse. What ties these sites together is geometry and sound. The megalithic yard, the mysterious 2.72-foot unit identified by Alexander Thom, has now been found to correspond to harmonic ratios in music and natural vibration. When converted into frequency, that unit translates into wavelengths that match precisely with tones generated inside Stonehenge and Newgrange. It's as if the builders were using a universal scale, a language of resonance encoded in stone. Modern physics now confirms what these ancient engineers may have known intuitively. Sound can move matter. Vibrations can levitate particles, alter molecular structure, and influence human emotion and cognition. The ancients, it seems, discovered this truth not in laboratories, but through direct experience with stone, space, and sound. Some researchers speculate that megalithic sites served not only ceremonial or healing functions, but also technological ones, resonant amplifiers capable of transmitting information or energy through the earth itself. When ancient drums, flutes, and chants were played, the vibrations may have interacted with the planet's electromagnetic field, generating effects we still don't fully understand. If this theory is correct, then these ancient structures were part of a planetary symphony, a network of resonant chambers tuned to the frequencies of the earth and sky. Their songs may have synchronized human communities with cosmic cycles, reinforcing unity, balance, and awareness. And perhaps those same vibrations never truly stopped. Deep below the sea, near the submerged megalithic structures off Japan's Yonaguni coast, sonar has recorded faint harmonic echoes, steady repeating tones that shouldn't exist in natural rock formations. Scientists debate whether it's coincidence or proof of something far older, still resonating after millennia of silence. And buried under the waves, could those same frequencies still be echoing from a civilization lost to time? The legacy of a forgotten science. When Alexander Thom first measured the windswept stones of Britain,
Alexander Thom, a Scot, one-time professor of engineering science at Oxford University.
he had no idea his quiet calculations would reopen one of humanity's oldest mysteries. His discovery of the megalithic yard, a precise repeating unit found in monuments across Europe, hinted at a lost science of breathtaking sophistication. Between the 1930s and 1970s, Thom meticulously measured over 600 stone circles, rows, and mounds across Britain and France. His results suggested astonishing consistency. Structures separated by hundreds of miles seemed to share exact geometric ratios and astronomical orientations, all pointing toward a common unit of 2.72 feet. For centuries, humanity viewed its distant ancestors as primitive builders guided by ritual and superstition. But Thom's findings hinted at a lost legacy of knowledge, precision, and cosmic awareness. His measurements implied that the same builders who erected Stonehenge or Callanish might have worked from a universal standard, one that required careful geometry and astronomical observation. Suddenly, these monuments were not just ceremonial spaces, they could be relics of a forgotten scientific tradition. Later reviews by experts like Clive Ruggles and Aubrey Burrell argued that Thom's conclusions were shaped as much by his engineering mindset as by the evidence itself. They suggested that while some monuments do exhibit remarkable geometric planning, others were likely built through visual estimation, not strict numerical systems. Yet even Ruggles admitted that the sheer precision at certain sites defied easy explanation, as if Thom's intuition had brushed against a forgotten truth. As the tide of discovery turns and more of human history is uncovered, one truth becomes undeniable. The story of human civilization may be far older and far greater than we've dared to imagine. The wisdom of ancient civilizations, once rooted in harmony with the natural world, was drowned by time, reinterpreted by legend, and forgotten by progress. What remains are their monuments, silent, mathematical, and alive with purpose, waiting for modern science to catch up. Beyond academia, Thom's discovery sparked public imagination. People began to see megalithic sites as more than tourist attractions. They became gateways to human origins, symbols of intelligence and creativity hidden beneath millennia of silence. Documentaries, books, and expeditions followed, all asking the same question: who taught these ancient builders the language of numbers and stars? Yet perhaps the greatest legacy of Thom's discovery lies not in proving or disproving the megalithic yard, but in what it represents. It reignited curiosity about our shared human past, reminding the world that history is never static. It expands each time someone questions what we think we know. Thom's passion showed that even solitary research, driven by patience and curiosity, can rewrite the boundaries of knowledge. Today, advanced technologies such as LiDAR scanning and satellite mapping continue to uncover patterns invisible to earlier generations. New evidence hints that Tom's instincts may not have been entirely mistaken, that prehistoric people indeed organized their world through principles of proportion and celestial order. Whether or not the megalithic yard was truly universal, the spirit behind it remains undeniable, a legacy of intelligence, precision, and wonder that connects us to those who looked up at the same sky thousands of years ago. And now, as researchers turn their eyes beneath the oceans, they ask a haunting question. Could there be even older monuments, buried deep under the sea, waiting to reveal a chapter of human history we've yet to imagine? The megaliths still stand, whispering through tides and time. Their message is clear. History isn't finished. It's waiting to be rewritten. But are we truly ready to uncover it? Share your thoughts in the comments below.